Hi, and welcome to our continuation lesson from Kalin-Tech with regards to building our transit ISP. So we're going to start with the building of the LNS. So I've done some pre-configuration work purely because we've already dealt with this in previous lessons. So let's have a quick look at what we've done here. So on the LNS itself, so if we do a run show configuration, and we'll do it in a display set. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a login user of myself, the root authentication, and I've set, so that you can do this, I've set the system services SSH to allow the root login and also version 2. I've also put in the interface addressing. So I've created a separate interface for access to the management system. And I've also created our interface here, look, with this address 192.168.2.2 for our connectivity to the SRX, which ultimately connects us to the freeradius server. Now we'll start with the freeradius server because what we're going to do is we're going to create here centralized administration of the systems. Okay, so we have to put in the root as well for the freeradius. As we know, the freeradius address is 1.2. So we put in the static root to the network. Now let's go across to the SRX and see what we have to do here. So on the SRX, the first thing we have to do is we have to create our, well, as you know, our routing instance. So if we do a run show configuration routing instance, and in this case, let's do a quick question mark of what I've done. I've called it London LNS. Okay. So we'll put in here London LNS, and we'll display set that one as well. Okay, so all we've done here is we've set our routing instance and we've called it its type. We've put the interface it's connected to, so the 2.1 address, as 2.2 is on the LNS, is on this interface, and we've created our logical tunnel, which obviously has to go from London LNS across to the freeradius zone. Okay, those are the two zones it has to go across to. So 4 is the London LNS end, and 5, which I'll show you in a minute, is in freeradius. We have to create the route to our loopback interface, which we've created on the LNS here, look, here, which, as I've described, is used for radius users currently. It'll be used for more than that, but at the moment, we're at the point of centralized administration, so it's utilized for that, and it's 1.1.1.1. I just made up the address. So we have to have the root for that, and we have to have the root, obviously, to our freeradius server, or the network it's on, the subnet, which is here. And the next hop will be LT000.5. Remember I said .4 is here, .5 is in the freeradius zone, as I'm about to show you. So if we have a look at the freeradius zone, so as you can see, 5 is in here. Okay, we have to have the root again because we have no IGP at the moment, so everything's static rooted. Once we put the IGP in, we can remove a lot of these static roots. We also need to get to the 2.0 for the 2.1 and the 2.2 of the LNS. Okay, so that's all put in there. Now we have to do, so if we do a run show configuration security zones security zone, and let's have a look at what we've got. Again, I've called it London LNS, so let's have a look at that, and that should almost replicate interface wise what we have in the virtual router. Sorry, so let me put in there London LNS, and we'll do it as a display set. And as I said, So we've got interface 04 and our physical interface, so our logical tunnel and our physical. And we've got our normal system services, all protocols, all. Remember, this is a generic. What we're going to do as we proceed is change all these settings to be specific rather than generic. So if we have a look at the free radius zone, we'll see that we've had to put logical tunnel ending in 5 in there. So we've added that too. Now we have to look at our policies. So if we do a run show configuration security policies, and we'll do a display set here. Okay, so we'll have a look at all of them, but the only ones we're interested in are anything to do with London LNS. So remember, we have to do our London LNS from zone London LNS to zone London LNS, and we're doing an any permit. Then we have to do our free radius zone from London to free radius, and here again, look, any permit. And we have to do free radius to London, any permit. Free radius to free radius already exists. We've already done that, so we don't need to do that again. It's here, look, any permit. Okay, and we have to do our routing as well, which I've already shown you. So it's routing from both sides. Okay, so what we also need to do is on our free radius server in our net plan, because otherwise the access accepts or denies, or any information from the free radius server will not get back to the LNS. So if we do a cat / etc., it's our net plan again, remember, net plan. And if you remember, this interface is the one that goes to our internal network, and this interface is for our management. So we actually need to add it to this interface. And all I've done here, look, is under routes, I've added to the loopback interface of the LNS and how it gets there. And we can confirm the operation of that by doing a ping. And we get to the interface, which is exactly what we want to be able to see. Okay, so let's clear the screen there. What I've also done is, so that we can see this in operation, is I have set up a PuTTY access to this system. So let's move this over. So this is also the free radius, so that we see live the access packets, the requests and the responses going to the LNS. So let's configure up first the LNS side for our requirements. So we're going to do the basic 3 that are recommended by Juniper, but remember, you can configure your own classes, and I'll show you that as well. So we do a set system login user, and we'll call this one RO. Okay, and the class is going to be read only. Now we'll create one for our operators. So we're going to create 3 separate ones: OP, class, operator, and we'll do one for a super user. So we can commit that, and that's our 3 users ready to go. Now what we need to do is we need to set our authentication order. So we do a set system authentication order. We open up our square brackets, we do a space, and we type the order we want it in. So we do radius. We want radius. If all we want is radius, that will be it. We don't even have to do the brackets. We can just put radius there, but we're not. We're going to do 2 different ones, and then password. Now, what this does is it says go to radius first. If the user doesn't exist, look locally. So password means local, and there's only one user set local, Clive. Well, there's two actually, and the root, obviously. So that's what we're doing there. So we can do that and we can commit that. That's the second part of our requirements. Now we obviously have to do our radius server itself. So we do set system radius server. And what options do we have? Well, it wants the address, obviously. So it's the address of our radius server, and we know it's 1.2. So 192.168.1.2. But we need to give it a secret. This is the shared secret between the NAS device, which is the LNS, and the radius server. So we put in there secret, and we'll just put in there let me in 1. Now we also have to give it a source address, and the source address is always best to utilize the loopback interface, and that's why we've done this and configured the loopback. So all we have to do here is go back to the address, and we put in there source, and the source address is 1.1.1.1, and we can commit that. That is our configuration completed with regards to just utilizing the basics. So let's do a run show configuration display set. So as you can see, we've configured our 3 classes, RO, OP, SU. We've configured our authentication order. And we've configured our radius server requirements. We've got our routes in place to the actual radius. So if we do a run ping 192.168.1.2, and we have communication in that direction too, which is exactly what we want. So what we have to do now to test this is we need to go to our Radman GUI front end, and what we're going to do is we'll go to users, and we're going to create a user that does not currently exist on our LNS. So we know that the only user that exists there currently is Clive. So let's just create one. Let's call them Steve, and we can put in here Juniper user, and we'll create the user. Now we have to go to our attributes, and this is where it gets a little more interesting. So what we have is, let me remove this one a minute. We're going to remove that, so we'll confirm that. So we have authentication attributes here are what we receive from the network access device, in other words the LNS. So we need to ensure that the password is correct, so that one is in there. But we need to also ensure that Juniper receives the correct group of RO, OP, or SU that we configured on its response. So freeradius has to include that in its access accept response. That's in this section, authorization attributes, is what we send back. So let's create one, and the actual attribute that we have to use here is Juniper, and we have to put the capitals in there, local user name. So we can put in there for Juniper AAA access, and we'll create that one. Now we need to go to our NAS devices, and again I will remove this one, and now I'm going to create it again. So our name, remember, is the IP, and we're using the loopback, so it's 1.1.1.1. The short name we can just put in there, Juniper LNS. Now the secret, remember, we put as let me in 1. You remember, that's what we typed as the shared secret. So we're going to create that, So we've created that. Now we have to create our authorization for Steve. So in the authentication of incoming, we assign the attribute. So we go to username Steve, the user is user, the attribute we're going to use here is clear text password, and it's a colon equals, and we'll put in there testing 123. There you go, quite a tricky password there. So we're going to assign that one. Now we have to do the authorization, what's going back for this username. So we'll assign an attribute. Steve, user, the attribute here is going to be a Juniper local username. It's a colon equals. Now in here, we just put RO, OP or SU to equal what we configured on the Juniper system. So if we put RO, this is read only. So when we log in as Steve, we should only have read only access. So we'll assign that. And that's everything completed there. But what we have to do now is we will go to our putty session, and we're going to start freeradius -X, which is in debug mode. So it's ready to process requests. So the reason we've started it like this is that we will see every request that comes in now on this system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so that we can squeeze in a secondary system. So I'm going to log into the LNS again from a remote, let's do a new session. So we'll log into, and we'll use the management address, which is 192.168.16.15. We'll bring that over here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to log in as Steve and see if it works. But first, obviously, we need to quickly change the settings. We'll change that to 18, bold, okay, and we'll change the colors to system and apply that. So let's log in as Steve, and the password we put was testing 123. And so we see here all of the requests. The request has come in, it's cleaned up, it's sent an access accept to 1.1.1.1 from 192.168.1.2, which is our server. And if we go further up, we can see where it starts and the process it goes through. So it received an access request from 1.1.1.1. There's the information. The username is Steve. The password was testing123. The NAS identifier is London LNS. And the calling station ID is 16.1. And the NAS IP is 1.1.1.1. So as we can see over here, we've logged in. Now, we're logged in as RO, read only. So can we get edit? Nope. Can we get config? Nope. What can we do then? Okay, well, we can do show, but what can we show? Oh, well, we can do all the show commands, but we can't do anything else. So what we need to do then is right, so we've exited out of the system. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to our radman, and we are going to change the authorization attribute to be super user. So we'll delete that one, confirm, and we'll assign the attribute to Steve. And this time we're going to change it to SU. And we'll assign that one. Now we have to stop and start the server, so we'll Control C, and then we'll freeradius -X debug mode. And what we're going to do again is we will open up another new session. Again, 192.168.16.15. we'll open that. We'll bring that across here. We'll change the attributes so that we can see it better. So we'll change the settings. Let's put it as appearance, change, bold, 18, okay, colors, use system colors, and we'll apply that. Okay, so what we're going to do is log in as Steve again. We will see over here the request come in. So we know it's testing 1, 2, 3. So we configure that and we see the packet go in, and it's back to, it's sent an access accept, and it's sent the username, which is exactly what we want. So the question is, can Steve now get into edit? And yes, he can. Okay, so what we've done there is we've proved the read-only and the super user and how to configure this system so that we have the centralized administration in place. If there are any questions regarding this lesson, as always, please just let me know straight away. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.